Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Chouar, and today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. And I've got the lovely Daniel Bader all the way from Canada, where I also am right now. Hey, it's a Canadian
Hey,
podcast. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, always. We're doing the show a little early this week because I'm doing a retreat this weekend. And since I publish on Sundays, I want to have everything ready in advance. And it's a bit odd because the reviews for the iPhone will be out tomorrow and my devices hopefully will be in my hands by then. But the reality is you have some things that I don't have, and I have some things you don't have. And we're going to talk about that. You have the AirPods Pro, and I have the Nothing Ear 3, the new earbuds from Nothing. And by the time this podcast airs, those embargoes will be done. So let's talk about that. Then let's talk about the watches a little more, because last week I had Carolina on the show and we talked about the phones a lot, but I also want your thoughts on the phones because, you know, we're Canadians. We have a slightly different perspective on things here, especially with this whole eSIM debacle that's been going on in the industry. And then Chinese phones, lots of cool news and interesting tidbits there. Yeah. So
Sounds good.
AirPods Pro Gen 3. What do you think?
I have had them in my ears for maybe an hour.
Oh, you just
Um,
you just got them, so you're wearing them now.
I'm wearing them right now, but you can't tell, right? That's the
Do they
interesting
look the
thing.
same?
They look the same. I mean, you can definitely tell if you have the two side by side, and the
Right.
feel in the ear is different. It sits a little further outside the ear canal. Um, but I think what is notable is that Apple says it's twice as effective at canceling noise,
And do you feel
and
that?
it's not. It's just objectively not. I've done the
Have
tests
you gone
already.
outside though? Like, cause that's a true test, right? Be in traffic,
Yeah,
on an
yeah.
airplane, at a coffee shop.
I mean, we simulated it in the demo, and the second I left the demo, I took them out of the box and I did my tests on a subway, on an over, on a street. Like,
Oh, okay. So you've had them for a little while and you were able to test it. Okay.
I'm not saying they're substantially better than the AirPods Pro 2. I'm not dismissing that. What I think is going to be the best part of this is that the passive isolation is considerably better than
Okay.
the previous generation. So
Because of those foam infused silicon
yes,
tips.
and I think the fit itself is better for most people. So anecdotally, if you read the reviews from Monday, from yesterday as we're recording this, most people have said that the tips fit better in general, and people that had issues like Marquez Brownlee said in his review that he is able to wear these with no problems, whereas the previous versions, regardless of tip size, he couldn't keep them in his ears. And I've talked to a bunch of people who have had the same experience already. So I think obviously active noise cancellation and the microphone quality, as you know, is absolutely essential. But passive isolation can get you a lot of the way there.
Yeah.
And ear tips in general just haven't done a good job. They can't do a good job.
I mean, they're not
Uh,
IAMs, right? And that's the ultimate, right? You know, if you get
exactly.
custom molds for your IAMs, that's half the battle, or more than half the battle most of the time.
Ask me how much I spent on Etymotics E4Is like 22 years ago or something
I'm there
with
with you.
custom
I got
molds.
the ER4Ss actually.
Yeah, like
Those are
we
mine. I've had them since I wouldn't say 90, 95, 96. I've got the OGs
yeah,
with the
those
thicker
are
cables that are a little more annoying. And yeah, I've got custom ear molds and they're still kicking. They're amazing.
so I think Apple understood the concept, right? It understood the problem, and they're not going to get a ton of additional ANC through the H2 chip. It's the same, essentially the same processor. So they just did the next best thing is they tweaked the design, made the tips more passively isolating, and subtle tweaks to and improvements to the microphone obviously get you a significant way there. So So far, so good. I mean, what they said about bass response is absolutely true. That passive isolation gives you just a lower sub bass, if you can
Mhm.
call earbuds,
So they didn't
having sub
boost the
bass.
bass. It's just you're getting more natural sub bass because you get better isolation, right? Because that's the
Correct.
thing I was really afraid of. Because everybody's going boomy bass at the bottom, like boomy, not good bass. Like I want the bass to be deep and there, but not booming, right? And
Yeah.
that's the challenge. And that's why I always have to EQ everything. Anyway,
So from my perspective, these are a good upgrade, right? They're same price, and it's not like you have an AirPods Pro 2 that was released in 2024 that you're thinking about upgrading from, right? This is a 3-year-old product. It hasn't really seen much iteration. It's had some feature updates through iOS, but nothing significant from a hardware perspective. I think a lot
right.
of people like me bought the USB-C version when they were released 2 years ago, but those were like very, very minor changes.
Yeah. No, I hear there were some new features made possible by the new chip at the time or something. But I'm surprised what you're saying about the chip being the same. I really thought that in addition to the passive insulation, they had changed their algorithm and improved stuff because that's what OnePlus has done with its earbuds, like the latest, the Buds 4. And you really notice it. Like the tips aren't any better. They're just regular silicone. But wow, the active ANC on those is like, holy crap. Like it's still not headphone level in any way, but it's significantly better than previous generation. So I figured Apple, with their might and their software and their, engineering experience should be able to pull something off here.
I'm not surprised the H2 wasn't updated. I think that there's probably very little that they can do at this point to update that chip other than make it more efficient.
Yeah.
They've got probably more headroom that they can get out of it, and Apple never updates a chip. I think in 3 years we'll get an H3,
Yeah,
right?
right. Exactly. So, are you happy with the sound quality out of the box? Did you have to do much tuning? You and I don't necessarily have the same, resulting EQ curve on our tuning. That's very personal. But I think that you and I are always kind of reluctant audiophiles, right? Like, I don't want to spend money and be totally crazy about my audio, but at the same time, I feel like I have certain standards that I want to meet. And in this world, I feel like a lot of that is going away. People really like this boomy bass. People are so used to compressed audio, they don't have any idea what non compressed audio is supposed to sound like anymore. I think that's also why there's a revival of physical formats because not only do you have that tangibility in the ownership and the process, the ritual of listening to maybe an entire album, which by the way, this is when I stream music, I listen to entire albums. I never listen to playlists. I'm sorry. Very rarely. If I do, it's an auto-generated. I need to crank for 5 hours and I need something to sustain my crank level, of writing or whatever. And I can't decide on a few albums to queue up. So I just like get Google to do this thing on YouTube Music. But how is that
I haven't
audio?
messed with the EQ, and you know that the iPhone's EQ is bad. I think it's
Right.
fair to say.
I
There's
think
there's
that the
no
AirPods Max were pretty good out of the box. That's about the only experience that I've had where I was like, I could live with this.
Yeah, it's not bad out of the box. I mean, I feel like it's a fairly neutral um, curve, and you don't have any coloring that I can tell immediately. I think Apple has always tended to go fairly flat. As I said, I don't think the tuning has changed here. I think
Okay.
what people are hearing is
Is
just an
the result
increase
of
in
better
passive
insulation. Yeah,
isolation.
got it.
And that's the way to go, right? Because you can EQ these if you want to, not on iOS, but elsewhere. And I'm gonna mess around with. I
Wait,
think it's
iOS
called.
doesn't have EQ for the like in the settings. You can't like do basic bass treble at least or some. There's nothing. You just have to
No,
accept what Apple tells you. Oof.
no. I think you can. There is EQ, but there's no. It's not a 10. It's not a banded EQ. It's
Oh,
just
that's
bass
unfortunate.
boost or
Yeah, I
treble
mean that goes with
boost.
Apple. They wouldn't want you to play with that stuff anyway. They know better.
Yeah. So
All right.
this is a good upgrade. I mean, it's for I think a lot of Air AirPods Pro 2 users will definitely buy
But
these.
battery life's better too, right? Like it's just better across the board. You're getting a bit more bass, like deep bass, but not boomy bass. You're getting
Yes.
better in isolation. You're getting better battery life. And is the case improved in any ways? Or like, you remember how they added the thing to find the case or whatever?
Yeah, so the UWB chip is more sensitive, so you can get more accurate
Okay.
Find My directions. There's the heart rate sensor as
Oh,
well, which
right,
we
right.
demoed. It's basically there just as an addition to the Apple Watch if you're wearing it. They said that if you at the time of a workout, starting a workout, it will determine based on the placement of your Apple Watch or the placement of your earbuds which has the better, tighter seal and signal. It will use that for 5 minutes and then reevaluate. So, for example, if you're doing a run
Yeah.
and your watch moves and gets and loses its effectiveness, it will transfer to the earbuds.
Makes sense. And I mean, Samsung does similar things between the Ring and the watch. I'm wearing the Watch Ultra actually today. I like to change watches. I was on the OnePlus Watch 3 for quite a while, which is probably my favorite Android watch right now. And again, I haven't tried Pixel Watch 4, but I've watched 3. And the problem with Pixel Watch is that, like Apple Watch, it's a very stylized concept of a watch. I like my watch to look like a watch. This looks like a watch.
You think that looks like a watch? I don't know. I disagree.
No, but I'm saying it's got that chunky, it's got a round display. It's got hands. Like it's got an always-on display. Like I feel like the Pixel Watch is just like this pebble on your wrist that happens to have a display. It's very nice. It's very futuristic, but it's not my favorite aesthetic. It's still too minimalistic. It's like, I think the Apple Watch is a little minimalistic. If I bought an Apple Watch, I'd want the Ultra simply because it's a little chunkier and it's got a bit more definition in its shape and design with that side thing, where the crown is located. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will be interested in the fact that if they like to wear watches, but they also like to work out, or if they have a Garmin and they own an iPhone, getting a second heartbeat reading as redundancy or something like
great.
that could
Yeah.
be useful.
100%.
Or just if you don't wear a watch at all.
Yeah. No, I think this is great. I'm actually surprised that they had to add a sensor for that because, microphonics, right? You know how you can hear your own heartbeat in your head, in your earbuds when you have them inserted, right? Usually a little bit. Like
Yeah.
there's a pressure differential inside your ear. If you have a good seal, that should let them monitor your heart rate. But I think they also need heart rate variability and a bunch of other stuff. And for that, you need an optical sensor. And so I bet you that's why they have an optical sensor.
Yeah, I doubt microphonics is sensitive enough for them.
But I always thought like you could develop an algorithm with existing earbuds that I can just detect the fact that you have a pressure change, every time you have a heartbeat. Boom, boom. If you have a good seal. The problem of having good seals, I think 99% of people out there don't have a good seal, even though there's
It could also be that
settings for that.
one tiny company owns the patent for that and Apple doesn't want to license that patent.
That is true. And it doesn't cost them very much because they already have the sensor for the watch anyway. So slap it in there.
It's probably Massimo and they're like, nope, we're good.
That big lawsuit, that was so bizarre. Cool. Well, listen, I'm looking forward. Hopefully they send me some. I don't think I do have them since I don't, they would have arrived by now. So maybe I'm not getting those. But we'll find out. Speaking of earbuds, Nothing has a new pair of earbuds. Nothing Ear 3. And you see the case is metal now, and it's got a button and a microphone next to the USB-C. And the buds look pretty similar, although they do have a little bit of a metal thing inside. They still have the transparency in the back. You can see the components and stuff. The buds are pretty much identical in shape, so very much like the AirPods. And as you can see, the case still has that little indent for your finger there, and you can turn it into a fidget spinner. The back is plastic white. Yeah, those are the Nothing Ear 3.
Okay, so what does the case do? What does that feature?
I still have to try. I'm still trying to figure out. So, if you don't have a Nothing phone, the case lets you relay the microphone from the case to the earbuds to your phone as a microphone you place on the table in front of a group of people. So, for example, or that you can hold like this, right, and talk into, and so basically I haven't tested it yet because I'm mostly focused on listening to music so far. But what I understand is that if you push the button while you hold it down, if your earbuds are inserted and you're on a normal non-nothing phone, like a normal phone, the microphone here takes over the microphones and the buds for whatever reason. So you can speak into it. But you can also lock it to be on by double tapping. So then you can put it down and it stays on. And then you click on it again to turn it off. So you could have like two people talking, and you can take one of the earbuds out at this point too, right? So it can be used kind of like as a potentially, they say that it works with some of the camera apps like Blackmagic and stuff. So you could potentially use that as a microphone for recording audio, but it's Bluetooth, so there might be some latency. And I have to establish how good the sound quality is on this. I haven't tried it yet. Because
I actually think that's a great idea. The number of people,
great idea, but the problem is how is it implemented? Because right now there's a relay. It's Bluetooth to the earbuds to the phone.
Okay.
And the other concern I have is I'm not sure if you're wearing AirPods or any earbud right now, because of the noise canceling, when you're in a voice call, right? Because of noise canceling it does, or rather the removal of exterior noise to focus on your voice, the sound quality of the voice is optimized for voice. It's not hi-fi, right? Mm-hmm. When you're doing voiceover, you want something that sounds like hi-fi. So I'm not sure this microphone sounds better, and I have to test that. Because if they say compare with like the Blackmagic app, I think the idea here is that you can use it for creators as one of those, speak into mics. Like that's a wireless mic, basically like a DJI or a Rode, right? Which is cool. If that's actually what it does when I test it. But right now, I don't know, And then if you have a nothing phone and you use Essential Space on your nothing phone, you have it enabled, you can actually have the button trigger one of those AI recordings, right? Like it replaces the button and the microphone on your phone, that essential key that they have on the nothing phone. So I think it's click once and it does a screenshot of whatever's on your screen, and you can talk and it'll take a note. I think either that or you hold it down. I can't remember. This is the exact same process, but as long as you have your earbuds in your ear and you have this in your hand, you can activate. You can also activate it from your earbuds as well. That's always been a thing. So
nice. I think that's great. Like if it is exactly what you described, I think even if the quality of the mic isn't up to DJI or Rode lav mic quality, just having an all-in-one where you can leverage the earbuds you already own as something to put in front of your mouth or to do a quick interview. That's basically TikTok today, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's very smart. I need to figure out the implementation. And because I've been focusing on this, right now I'm stuck on the sound quality. They don't sound great.
Okay.
I can't get past that. It's annoying. I've been tuning the EQ for days. And look, let me rephrase it. They sound fine. Some people are going to love them. They're very bass heavy, very boomy, just like the headphones were actually. Did you ever try the headphones?
No, I haven't.
Tuned by KEF, famous British sound speaker manufacturer. That they should not have done that. I mean, it's not KEF's fault. I think it's just they wanted to slap a label on there like Hasselblad in the early days before it got good, or Leica or Zeiss. But eventually it got good, so I want to give it time. But the headphones can be rescued with EQ. They're just a little bass heavy, and that's just because people like it tuned that way these days, I think. But this, I can't figure out the EQ curve to save. It's so boomy in the bass. No matter what I do, the EQ doesn't let you go lower enough to do it, to get rid of it. So you still have that boominess no matter what. Even if you crank like everything below 500 hertz down, you still get super boominess. And then the treble is kind of emphasized in this kind of unpleasant way. And I've also had to tune that a bit, but I'm just not happy with the result. And it's never taken, the other headphones that were like that recently that I was like, I can't tune these. It's pissing me off. The Sony WH-XM6s. I don't know why. I have the 5s, I have the 4s, I have the 3s. I never had any problems tuning those. They have slightly different EQ. From the 3 to 4, it's minor change. 4 to 5 is the 5 sound way better than the 4s, and you can get an EQ curve that works. 6s, I'm thinking they should be better or similar to the 5s, and they're indeed similar to the 5s. But then when I try to tune the EQ, I'm not getting there. I'm also getting some harsh high end out of them. I was able to master the bass on the XM6s, but the high end is something off there. And then these, high end is off, bass is too heavy. It's just like, I'm like, come on, guys, you had a process for making good earbuds. Like, the ANC also is very disappointing. It's barely better than the previous gen. I had on the previous earbuds from Nothing, the Ear 1, the Ear 2, well, they're never called that. They're called Ear. The Ear 2, then the Ear, because this is Gen 4, really, technically. They've had the original Ear 1, which are just Ear. Then there's Ear 2. And then they had, didn't they have? Yeah, they had Ear, which was Gen 3, which came out alongside Ear A. Those two, the Ear A and the Ear, the Gen 3 Ear, were my favorite. The EQ on those was sublime out of the box. I just had to tune it just a little bit, and they were great. The ANC was solid. In fact, I felt that the ANC was better on the A, especially wind resistance. Like if you're walking and it's windy outside, somehow the A's were better than the more expensive ones. And also I have the yellow Ear A, which are really dope. These are technically the 4 gen. And I don't know what they did. And it doesn't say KEF on it anywhere, so I don't think it's that. But it's like they kind of lost the plot. And I don't know. I'm annoyed. Anyway, the other thing I quickly want to say before I know, because you have some things to say about that. I don't know if which you have. Do you have the 2nd gen Ear? Because they're not my favorite. If you have the 3rd gen that came out with the Ear A,
that's what I have.
That's what you have. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be disappointed with these, I think. But the case is metal, which is really nice. The design, everything's beautiful. Battery life's better. La la la. They still don't have the swipe for volume, which I thought for sure they would do. OnePlus is doing it on their mid-range buds now. Like Apple's done it forever. Samsung's doing it. Why? Why don't we have progress? What are your thoughts on Nothing?
It's the company itself is confusing.
Well, yeah.
Me. And that, I think, bleeds into the products that it launches, right? I think a similar reception happened with the new Nothing Phone 3, right? Yeah. People were decrying the fact that it changed its glyphs and moved away from that. I think as a company that has a very limited budget, it has a very design-first approach. It's got very few options to in which to innovate, right? It has to make some decisions every time it releases a new product, how they're going to market it. And in this one in particular, I wouldn't be surprised if they lean into the creator first side of things, right? Yeah. Your AirPods can't do this, right?
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on quality, which is what they were really leaning on in previous generations, but were bested by Sennheiser and Bose and Sony to some extent. I think it's not a competitive place, and also it's not sexy, right? You can't telling people that your tiny little Bluetooth earbuds sound slightly better than your competitors is not good marketing.
But here's the thing: I don't think they ever said that. I always felt the Nothing Buds. Not the first one, the second one maybe a bit, but those two that came out at the same time, the Ear A and the Ear 3 that were just called Ear, were like, wow, like all of a sudden, like, I mean, they have matured. This is a really solid, they're up there with the best at a cheaper price. Now, they were missing features. They didn't have the swipe to volume. They didn't have that. Like, I'm okay I'm accepting that because I'm like, the sound is great. They never advertised the sound though. I mean, they always said they were trying to be competitive, but it just seemed to be like a nice little side effect, inside the audiophile circles. Hey, nothing buds, pretty cool. In the same way as I think the OnePlus buds, especially their pros, especially the 3. I think the OnePlus Buds Pro 3 right now are today my favorite earbuds that I have. I have 2 pairs, in fact. I have the blue and the white. And they're amazing. They have great ANC. They have, lovely sound out of the box. Slight tuning makes them even slightly better. They have great battery life. They have the clickable, like pressable stems, just like Samsung has and Apple has. They have the volume slider thing, like where you tap capacitive slider thing. And they cost much less than the Samsung and Apple buds. They're absolutely 100%. The only thing missing is LDAC. They have LHDC, which, not many phones have, unfortunately, which is a bit of a hassle. These have LDAC, which is nice. Nothings always have LDAC. So to me, it's like, that was the peak. And since then, this was last summer. And since the OnePlus Buds Pro 3, I haven't had a pair of earbuds land that I felt like was better. And even the OnePlus Buds 4, which are not Pro, granted, there's probably a Pro pair in the works. I had to do a lot of tuning to get them to sound right, but I finally nailed that. And they have amazing ANC, the OnePlus Buds 4, the best ANC I've ever had on any earbuds.
Even though they're technically cheaper and lower.
So it's funny because they have no wireless charging. They feel cheaper in hand. The case is looking cheaper, lighter. The buds do not have the squeeze, but they do have the tap for playback and pausing. But they do have the volume sliding capacitive thing, which is interesting. So it's like they definitely are good because they have good ANC, good sound once they're tuned, and have the volume adjustment by capacitive thing. But they're definitely more affordable than the pros. So they were like my first, where I was like, okay, I can see where they're going with this. But then Nothing headphones came out, and I was like, they're going to be amazing. And they were okay, but they needed a lot of tuning to be great. And also, they're heavy, and comfort on them is ANC is, And then the Sonys came out, and I'm like, sure, the headphones, right? The WHM XM6. And I'm like, okay, these are going to be amazing. It took me a while to get a review in it. Now I finally have one, and I was like, oh, I'm having a hard time tuning these. Why is that? How's that possible? Because they're so close to the XM5s in sound signature. Why can't I tune them right? And and then people have problems with the mechanics of them. They seem to be fragile. That they're foldable again, which is great, but they seem to be a little weak in terms of like the strength, right, of the hinge. Whereas the XM4s were like bulletproof, basically. So it's weird. And then these come into my inbox, and I'm like, okay, earbuds from nothing. This is going to be awesome. And I think that's the problem. I went into it going like, yeah, they added a mic. It's going to be cool, but where's the rest of it, right? The other problem with these that I find really annoying, have you had this on some earbuds are worse than others, but microphonics. Just moving my head around with the earbuds inserted.
No.
Like, I'm literally getting a ton of microphonics on these earbuds. Like, some are worse than others. Usually I get it when I'm just walking, step, boom,
yeah.
boom, boom. That's acceptable if it's not too strong. With this, it's like every time they come a step, my music basically fades away because it's so strong, the microphonics on it. And it's not the music literally fading away. It's my ears being overwhelmed by the thunk of my foot hitting the ground through the earbuds. Microphonics are insane on these. And I've noticed that pulling them away from my ear, like making them fit in my ear at an angle a bit more, I still get the right sound, the right ANC, but then I get less microphonics. The fact that I have to do that adjustment every time is really weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, I just don't understand what happened here. But like, they were nailing it, and now I'm just going to want to go back to my old ear and just call it a day and put these in a drawer somewhere, unless this microphone button thing, that talk button there,
I'm guessing that you will be able to EQ this to where
you like.
I will
figure it out, I hope.
I have faith in you.
Such a waste of time. Shouldn't have to do this. Sorry, I got other things to deal with, like the iPhones. Before we jump into the iPhones, look, I just want to be clear. I don't think these are bad earbuds. Some people are going to love this tuning out of the box. They have decent ANC. They have this cool feature. They have better battery life. They're reasonably priced. They look great. It's just I was expecting more. And
Yeah.
the fact that I'm having a hard time tuning them is frustrating. And then the microphonics is frustrating. And the general fact that the few last audio devices I've reviewed or had come in, I felt like they were not hitting the mark in terms of sound or features. Like the fact that there's no volume capacitive on this when everyone else has done it. Like I was like, for sure, because it has a squeeze the stem. Like they've had the squeeze the stem on the nothings for quite a while. So I thought, okay, that maybe they can just add it, especially since if you see the buds here, there's like a silver strip now. You see that? Right? So I'm thinking maybe they put a sensor there. No, nothing. So a little bummed, but that's just me. I was high expectations. So before we talk about the iPhones, watches, there's some reviews out today. From the get-go from last week, I thought the Apple Watch SE3 was going to be the winner because Theo, my producer, has an SE original and it's dying now. I think I'm going to get them an SE3. But the point is, it was a solid watch at the time. SE2 was a solid watch at the time. I feel like most people could live just fine, like the average Apple user, not the people who are outdoorsy or sporty. If you want to save a little bit of money, the SE was always the one to get. And I feel like they've totally nailed that this year again.
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that the Series 10 got a pretty big update last year meant that got most of the attention. Plus, there was no Ultra update. So the SE was due for a big update.
Yeah, it's 3 years old now?
It was three years. And they basically just combined everything from Series 8, 9, and 10 into a product that cost $250. So yeah, it's a good product. It's clean, right? Like there's really no
and you get,
downsides to it.
Compared to the old ones, you get always on display. Now you get 5G across the board on all three watches. Satellite connectivity on all three watches. Those three things alone are a massive upgrade, in my opinion, over any previous SEs. And, you're right. More efficiency, better power management, the newer chips, all that. I think it's just a win across the board. I mean, chunky bezel.
Plus, it's smaller. Like it's the only one that it's offered in 40 millimeters now. So,
if really?
You want to, yeah. So the 40, the larger Series 11 is 42 and 46. This is 40 and 44, and then the Ultra is 49. So if you do want that small entry level unit, right? That's the only one you can go for. And like I know a lot of parents who buy their kids an Apple Watch Cellular instead of a phone and tack it onto their plan for a few bucks a month. Like that's a viable option now. It's a pretty robust product. It has everything.
And I have to say, robust is a key word here because Theo has had theirs for, I want to say 4 years now, the original SE. And the battery is definitely dying. And it's beat to hell. Like it wasn't in a case. Like it's got scratches on every corner. It still works like a charm, other than battery life being a little worse. The display isn't cracked. It's water. They swim with it all the time. It's still water resistant after 4 years. Do they rinse it after the pool? No.
Yeah, I mean...
You know what I'm saying? People don't care. And that is a testament. I have not worn an Android watch long enough to know if it would be that rugged. I don't know. My Pixel watches certainly haven't been. Like my Pixel watches look like crap after 1 year. And, I don't know why. I hope this year's Pixel Watch 4 fixes that because I always end up with a big scratch or damage on the display somehow.
I will say my Series 10 is scratched to hell, right?
But it's working, right?
I bought it day one. I've worn it quite a lot in the last year, and it's very scratched.
But it's fine,
Apple
right?
says that the ceramic shield on the new ones is
better,
much better. So,
but your watch is okay. It's just cosmetic, correct?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just it's scratched. I don't want to have to use a screen protector on my watch.
It's interesting because this Samsung Watch Ultra that I've been wearing on and off for the last year, and the OnePlus Watch 3 that I've been wearing almost continuously since it came out have not a scratch or any damage on them whatsoever. And this is despite me, scraping them on walls and I think sapphire glass. It's sapphire on the OnePlus, and I don't know what they're using on, but it has they both have protection. They both have that metal ring around them. The Samsung watch here it's PVD coated. It's got a few little you have to look really close to see them nicks, but the OnePlus has this, I think it's titanium ring around the sapphire bezel. Not any show of wear and tear on that at all. Like it feels like my watch is brand new. And look, I'm not saying like things wear, it's normal. Like, but with Pixel, after just a few months or weeks even, scratches galore. And they're not deep scratches, they're just there. My original Pixel watch had a big gash in it, scratch. I think that was much worse glass than the Watch 3. I never wore the Watch 2. Watch 3 though, I have this literally a gouge of glass missing on one of the edges. Like, I don't know, I must have hit like some kind of granite countertop edge or something. Literally, it carved out a piece of glass away from the, you can't tell because it's on the edge. It's not in the middle of the display or anything, but I found like, how is that happening? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird because some things you think that, will scratch glass, you hit it hard against concrete or something and there are no scratches. But then you wake up one morning and it's been sitting on a charger all night and there's a new scratch. So who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, I think the SE is the one. The 11 is a solid watch if you want all the features. I think the hypertension monitoring feature, is a pretty cool new feature.
It's coming to older devices though. So
is it? So it's not a sensor or anything. Interesting. So
no, it's coming to Series 6 and above. So the last like 6 years, basically.
Wow, very cool. And then Ultra 3. I mean, if you want slightly less bezels, or your Ultra is dying, your original, which is unlikely, but I don't know. I think the Ultra would be the watch for me if I was on the Apple ecosystem hardcore. I think the SE3 is the watch for most people. I kind of feel the same.
It's a big boy. Like the Ultra is a
look
big
at my wrist.
Watch.
This looks normal on my wrist, right? It's massive. This thing is almost 12 millimeters thick. Like, yeah, it's huge.
It's about the same size. So again, like if you're somebody who just wants your watch to kind of disappear on your wrist, that's not for you. But if you want 2-day battery life, then go for it.
Or buy a OnePlus Watch 3 and get 4 days of battery life with the always-on display and workouts.
It's a good product. I have one. I really like it.
Like, this is the only thing I don't like about this Galaxy Watch. The only reason I like to wear it is because it looks really cool, especially with the orange band, and because it does have really high-quality tracking of everything. I still think Samsung does a really good job with their health app and the tracking and stuff they do. But honestly, battery life on this watch is just matches Apple. It's 2 days at best, and it's not that great. Like the OnePlus Watch 3 is solid. 4 days easily for me with always on display. So I don't know. I want Apple to do something like that.
Well, I mean, the Ultra gets 42 hours of whatever that means, right?
Right.
42 hours of battery life, which is
2 days.
A significant improvement over the previous gen. But I don't know. Are you sleeping with your Apple Watch Ultra? Like, come on.
I sleep with all my watches, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I charge literally. When I say 4 days, my OnePlus Watch 3 is like, I charge it. It charges in no time, which is awesome. That's the fastest charging watch I've ever owned. Like literally, you put it on the charger at 15%, 10 minutes later, you're at 50%, then 30 minutes, a total charging time, you're at 100%. It's amazing. You can basically, and because it has 4 days of battery life, you can do that 10 minutes in your shower from 15 to 30, 40, 50%, and then walk out the door and you're good for 2 days. Like, it's amazing. I sleep with my watches. I also sleep with a Ultra Human ring. I used to sleep with a Samsung Galaxy ring. And I don't mind. I got chunky wrists. It's not for everybody though, right? Some people,
I don't think I could do that.
Some people don't want to sleep with a watch on or just a ring on or whatever.
Ring's fine. Like I've worn I wore a Oura ring for 6 months and it was great, but a watch just feels different. I can't get
A
over
lot
the
of people
feeling.
sleep, especially like the small SE watch. A lot of people sleep with their Apple watches. So for the monitoring, with the sleep monitoring, Theo
Yeah,
does.
yeah, and the sleep score feature that they added is
Oh, it's
also
so
backward
necessary.
compatible.
Yeah. So anyway, Apple watches always solid. I still think that other than battery life, I think they lead. They lead the smartwatch world in terms of feature set. Like, I love how Apple really leans hard on it saved people's lives, and that's true. But I'm sure that a lot of Galaxy watches have saved people's lives as well. The problem is that there's not as many Galaxy watches out there. The Apple Watch is so ubiquitous. Every time I see a smartwatch on a wrist, it's an Apple Watch. The number of
Yeah.
times I see a Galaxy Watch even is rare. And then OnePlus, forget it. Nobody wears a OnePlus watch, at least not in the West.
Well, nobody has a OnePlus phone either.
You don't need a OnePlus phone. I'm using it on my Pixel. It's just fine.
Right, but nobody's going out and buying a OnePlus watch without likely owning a OnePlus phone
It's true.
because they don't know the brand, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
entry point.
Yeah, I think the nerds might because they hear us talk about it.
Maybe, but even then, I think it's unlikely.
You're right.
It's an ecosystem play for every single OEM. The difference is that Samsung and Apple have scale. Even Google doesn't have scale.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. Oh, goodness. Let's talk about the iPhones real quick since we covered them a lot last week. I'm still feeling the same as I did last week. This is one of the best phone lineups from Apple and forever, especially the 17 base model. I'm going to reiterate what I said last week that I think if you're looking for an iPhone and you need to upgrade and you don't really care about telephoto, the 17 right now, 120 hertz display. It's got the center stage camera. It's got the camera control if that's your thing. It's got the action button. It looks good. It comes in some relatively decent colors. It does Vision Pro video capability. It has good battery life. It's got a decently fast enough chip. It's got the N1 connectivity chip. It's got a Qualcomm modem in it. It has everything except a SIM tray in most markets. It's interesting because the SIM tray is now on the rest of world watches, which doesn't really mean anything because that doesn't include the Middle East, Canada,
Right.
the US, Japan. So there's now 3 SKUs from what I understand. China, the rest of world, which doesn't include those countries I mentioned, or which is regions I mentioned, because there's really Middle East is a big region. And then we have the US model, which is also Canada, Japan, Middle East, which has no SIM tray. And that's on the 17 and 17 Pro Max. And then the Air obviously is I think it's a single SKU worldwide right now with
Yes,
a
as far as I know.
C1X chip that doesn't do millimeter wave. That's not a huge deal because that's really a Verizon thing only. but I think the C1X
And even then, it's not really anymore.
the C1X I think is going to be when I tested C1 and the 16E, I thought it was a pretty solid modem, like pretty good start for Apple. I'm sure the C1X will be better. So I feel like this whole lineup is really interesting, and I think the pros are really proing hard this year. Like I think that going back to having a vapor chamber, having an aluminum build that's better for thermals, going back to essentially having a half metal phone is really cool in a way. It reminds me of the HTC One M7, M8, M9. Which makes me happy.
Glory days.
Yeah,
Miriam,
the glory days. I know. And then the camera finally triple 48 megapixel. I think the 4X is a really solid choice because it gives you nice regular intervals like 0.5, 1, 2-time crop, 4, 2-time crop on that is 8. No weird AI business. Just the facts, mom, kind of thing. Right? It's great.
Right.
I think, but I feel like a lot of people are going to buy the Pros, just like a lot of people buy the iPad Pros and the MacBook Pros that don't need them. And that's okay. If you want the telephoto, I get it. But I think it's things like Genlock, things like the Pro Raw for video or whatever it's called. Like all these features that are really meant to pros. Like this can be the ultimate B-roll, possibly even A-roll camera now for a lot of people. Is that how you
I
feel
think it's
too? Do you feel like Apple
I
really pro'd it? Like they were like, okay, we're making this phone. It's for the pros. It's no longer just the better phone.
agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the strategy here is, as you mentioned earlier, mirroring the Mac and the iPad in some way, right? We have the Air being kind of the middle of the range, slightly higher end product that's a little bit lifestyle-y, right? If you're not quite there on the Pro stuff, but you still want most of the features that the Pro gives you. It looks better. It's thinner. You can see the parallel with the iPad lineup, and it's, I think, going to be the exact same. Uh, and then it allows Apple to make the Pros thicker and heavier and a bit more
Pro.
little, yeah, like I think a little bit more utilitarian
Yeah.
and get away with it, right? This is not the sleek iPhone that the iPhone 10 was. This is a
Tool.
bombastic
It's a
dual
tool.
tone.
And that's why I'm digging about it. It's like
Yeah.
Apple's is it's like the MacBook Pro when they came out, it was thicker and it had the ports again. I was like, this is exactly what we want. Like,
Mhm.
and in that sense, I'm excited about it. And then, the Air, I think, look, I love the Edge. I went into it in an open mind because I was like, I don't want to prejudge because, yeah, battery. I knew the battery life would suck, and I kind of knew that. I accepted that. It didn't really suck, but it's not great. I think the iPhone Air is going to have similar issues, although probably better than the Edge in that sense. But I like the Edge, and so I'm going to like the Air. The only thing that's really bothering me is the lack of ultra wide. Like that is for $1,000 phone a rough deal. And I don't understand how Apple and all their mightiness could not have done that. Because here's the thing, like I said that last week, and I'm going to repeat it because it's only 0.2 millimeters thinner than the Edge, yet it lacks a SIM tray, it lacks millimeter wave, it lacks an ultra wide. Now, it does have magnets, G2, so that takes up
Mhm.
space. And it is $100 cheaper than the Edge, at least the MSRP is, for the same amount of storage. But come on, like, I think Apple could have done a little more. Now, the eSIM, of course, they did that. It's like removing a headphone jack and all that. The black and medium, it doesn't matter. It's really a Verizon thing. Most of you won't notice unless you're a Verizon customer in a stadium at a big event that has millimeter wave in the stadium and you really are struggling with your normal 5G, right? Like we're talking very rare use case. But the ultra wide, oof, oof.
I don't know. I don't agree necessarily.
Really?
I just don't think that's going to be a factor when people are buying this.
Really? You think they're just going for sexiness?
I don't think it's going to be a negative factor in that they'll choose another product because it doesn't have an ultra wide. I think it might be annoying, right, in certain situations,
I
but
think what's going to happen is people are going to buy it coming from an iPhone 15 or something that has an ultra wide or a Pro that has an ultra wide, and they don't understand why the three lenses exist on the back of their phone. They're just punching point 0.5 when they want, when they can't step backwards enough.
mhm.
Right. And then all of a sudden, one day they're going to be using their phone. They're going to be happy as clam for a week. And then they're going to try to do that. And you're like, where's my 0.5? Like, I think people don't even understand that 0.5 is a separate lens. In fact,
Yeah,
Apple is trying to blur that by telling us there's 8 lenses on the Pro, which is BS, total BS. Right? Like, I'm
that
worried
one
that
is
there are going to be
bullshit.
people who are disappointed because they're thinking they've always had an ultra wide for the last 5 years. And they're going to go into it going like, that's not even a factor because they're not looking at the specs. They're like sexy, sexy, thin, thin, awesome. I want. And then one day they take a photo and they go like, wait, I can't do that anymore. That's
I mean,
that's the
look, my
miss.
my hot take here is I don't actually think I don't know if the iPhone Air is going to be successful in the way that Apple wants it to be. I think it might go the way of the Mini in a few years or be replaced by a foldable, and it'll be a test bench for a bunch of technology.
It's definitely a test bench for the foldable, just like the Edge, predates the Z Fold 7, and the Z Fold 7 showed us what Samsung can really do.
Right.
I
think that's true.
I think the future is there's going to be thin phones everywhere because of silicon carbon batteries. I think there's going to be a Pro tier that's going to be Pro than Pro. That's going to be the chunky tier. Then there's going to be that slim tier, which is going to be the mainstream tier. And those, we're going to get 6,500 milliamp hour before you blink on a phone that's 5 millimeter thin. You know it. We already have a half dozen 7,000 milliamp phone that are 7.8 millimeter thin roughly, and that lasts 3 days on a charge from various Chinese manufacturers. They're all mid-range or budget phones, but they are massive in terms of battery life. Some of them even have small 6.5 inch screens. So it's not like it's happening. Eventually, Apple, Google, and Samsung will get silicon carbon, and they'll be happy with it. But I'm telling you right now, my theory is that 2-3 years from now, they will have created a new category of slim phones that are going to be very popular, because they're going to essentially, like the Plus being replaced by the Air, they're going to replace that kind of premium but not Pro tier, like that upper mid-range affordable flagship, if you want to call it affordable, at $999 US. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's the sexy tier, the creator tier for those who don't want the Pro.
Yeah, I think
like
you
the
might be
MacBook
right.
Air became the default, right?
It did, because the MacBook was underpowered, right? That 2016 MacBook was underpowered. But I do
also
think
sexy.
It was great. I have one, and its battery is dead, and I have to charge it. I have to have it plugged in.
No, I'm talking about the
Air.
All. The Air was sexy. And then
the original Air was sexy.
And the Ultra Portable came out of that for all the other brands, right?
Yeah. I don't know who's going to buy the iPhone Air. I do think it's too compromised to justify its $1,000 price.
But you told me it didn't need an ultra wide. How can you be too compromised if it doesn't need an ultra wide? See?
But no. But it doesn't need an ultra wide, because I don't think that's a negative factor if people are considering it.
Oh.
I just don't think many people are going to consider it at all. I just think it'll be looked at in stores, oohed and awed over, and then people will either go for the 17 or one of the Pros.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that's also because Apple customers are very cautious, just like Apple is. So, and I think the Edge has shown us this too. Like, the Edge is not selling, right? But it's a technology showcase. And more importantly, I still think it's a stepping stone towards 3 years from now, a lot of thin phones being out there, being the norm at this upper mid-range, premium, lower flagship, if you consider Pros to be the pickup truck, the tools that they are, right, below that tier. So I think we're going up in price always, because inflation, and they want to make more profit, all the companies. So what we're going to see is, of course, there's going to be budget phones, and there's going to be, mid-range phones like those Pocos and those Realmes and those Redmis, right? Those are going to have 7,000, 8,000, Honor already 8,000 on one of them. They've announced that next year's Power phone. The Power is one of their tiers that currently has an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, will have a 10,000 milliamp hour battery in a normal size chassis. That's Honor pushing the envelope like they always do with silicon carbon. So I think what we're going to say is this budget and affordable and mid-range phones are all going to have like 3-day battery life, are going to be the normal thickness with big batteries. I'd say 10,000 is going to become the norm. And then we're going to get, and of course, power efficiency is going to improve on the chipset, so it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. Then we're going to have that super premium. If you want to show that you have the better phone, it's going to be the slim, thin phone with 6,500, 7,000 milliamp hour on a 5 millimeter thin chassis. That's 3 years from now. And then you're going to have the pickup truck, the Pro, the Beast, the Ultra phone, which I really wouldn't be surprised Apple renames it Ultra or something, because everybody, well, it's actually, we're going to talk about Xiaomi in a second here, but I think that's where we're going. And of course, the big flagships are going to have 7,000, like, you know what's coming, right? Like, Oppo's supposed to have 7,500 milliamp hour battery in the Find X9 Pro. Mm-hmm. And OnePlus is supposed to have a 7,000 milliamp hour battery in the OnePlus 15. So it's coming, it's happening. The flagship are getting huge batteries from the Chinese, and inevitably Samsung's going to follow suit, and then eventually Apple and eventually Google will follow suit. not necessarily in that order.
I wouldn't be surprised if silicon carbon is just skipped altogether.
Well, it could be another technology, but I'm just saying that's where we're going.
I don't know. I mean, it is. We're talking about, I think with Samsung in particular, with the Note 7, right? We have a history
The
of being
trauma
cautious,
of the Note 7, yes.
and we don't know the longevity of a silicon carbon cell yet. We don't, it doesn't have the number
We do
of.
because we have had it in EVs for a while. This is all BS. Like I'm telling you right now, the technology is there. We have it. It works. It's just the question is this: do we need our phones to last 7 years? I don't think so.
Well, they are being sold as being supported for 500 plus cycles.
Remember, if your phone battery lasts for 3 days, you have less charge cycles. You charge it less often. It becomes less of an issue to have less charge cycles.
But you're still charging it every day, right? You're likely
you're
topping
not.
it up.
You won't. I've lived with these 7,000 milliamp hour phones. You will not charge it every day.
But where are you putting it at night, right? Are you just not putting it on a charger next to your bed?
You're putting it on the 120 watt charger it came with, and 20 minutes later, you're back at 100%.
Right.
It's a complete different way of thinking. Like when you can charge your phone from beginning to end with a 7,000 milliamp hour battery in an entire hour, and if you charge it for just 10 minutes, you get 20 or 30% of the battery, then your mindset changes. You don't charge it at night anymore. You charge it as you need it. And
yeah, you might be right. I think
with less charge cycles, the battery will last the 7 years. I don't think 7 years is reasonable. I think 4 years is a good number for most people to keep their phones realistically. If you look at how beat up most people's phones are after just 2 or 3 years, 7 years is a freaking pipe dream. Okay. I think it's nice that we do that. I don't think we should. I'm not against it. It's noble. We should do it. But like, I'm being pragmatic here. Silicon carbon can already do 800 cycles to 80%, which is what the EU requires. This is a fact. This is tested in lab. We already are seeing the results. Honor is going to be publishing some info about that on their 3-year-old silicon carbon batteries now. So some companies are claiming 1,600 charge cycles to 80% capacity on their silicon carbon. So when you have a phone that lasts 2 or 3 days on a charge, you don't have to charge every day. And even if you do charge it every day a little bit, you're charging from maybe 50%, 60% to 80%, 90%, because all of these limit the charge rate. Like the problem with silicon carbon is that you have to handle the battery with more care, but that's not something the consumer has to manage. In the same way as when you do continuity on your iPhone, it sets the battery charge to 80% and holds it there the entire time you're on your camera call, right? That's managed by the software. Here's the nice thing. If you have a 7,000 or 10,000 milliamp hour battery, you never need to charge to 100%. You can have it charged to 90%, and then the battery life is better. In fact, the manufacturer can tell you that you're charging to 100 when you're only charging to 90, because that's what happens on EVs. There's effective capacity and actual capacity. Most EVs give you less than 100%, so you can go to 100 and still not damage the battery. So all of that can be managed. All I'm saying is that you have more capacity. All of a sudden, it opens up a new world. You can charge differently. You have less charge cycles. You don't have to charge to 100 anymore because you just bonanza of capacity. So, but the thing is, it's like gas versus electric. People are used to doing things a certain way by plugging their phones every night. That's not where we're going.
You've definitely convinced me. I didn't take into consideration that you're staying at a higher capacity. You're staying at a higher charge percentage anyway, so your battery doesn't have to vacillate between 0 and 100.
You're not doing full charge cycles all the time. You're actually doing what a battery likes. You're going from a certain percentage to another certain percentage. And if in software, most Chinese phones now have that option. And I say Chinese, I mean these phones I'm talking about, those 7,000 milliamp hour budget and mid-range phones I have, are rest of world. There are global phones sold in India and other markets. They're not China market phones. And they all have a limiter. Like you can set it. They recommend as soon as the first set up the phone, they say, hey, set your limiter to 90% or whatever. Because you know what? You have so much battery. You don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the next step is what we see in EVs, where the manufacturer decides I'm only going to let them charge to 90. I'm going to tell them 100 on the thing, but I'm only going to charge to 90. And then, the battery is happy as a clam, right? Because it doesn't ever get to 100. And it never gets to zero either. They might say zero and might say, hey, it's time to charge, but we're really sitting at 5% or 10% down there, Like,
Right.
that's what silicon carbide opens up. And that's why I'm so excited about it. And I think that, yes, there are absolutely challenges with it. Like there is challenges with swelling. There's challenges with longevity. This can be managed. And I think because we have better battery charging tech, and this is the other thing, it comes hand in hand with fast charging, something that in the West we just don't know of yet. 45 watt isn't fast charging. When I get a phone that costs $250 from Realme that has a 7,000 milliamp hour battery and charges at 80 watt for $250, it's a whole different ball game, I don't know. I think I'm gung-ho about it. I feel like we're going to be in a better place because of it. And those slim phones can then become, I think, more sexy because of it. Because now you can have 1 day, 1.5 day battery life out of like a 5mm thin phone. And if they can find a way to add 3 cameras on the back of those, we're back to a premium flagship phone that's super thin.
I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years the iPhone Air has three cameras, or at least 2.
Yeah. But right now, you're right. Today, it's a tough sell on the Air.
Yeah, agreed.
I think early adopters and people who really want to be fashionable will probably go for it as well.
I think there will be a lot of returns. That's my concern, is that I think Apple will sell them and then people will return them and buy another iPhone 17.
Which one would you recommend to people? I really feel the 17 base this year is really great.
I agree. I think it's the default, but I do think the 1099
Pro
17 Pro is just
with
infallible.
256. They all have 256 now. That's really amazing.
And I'm so excited because you and I share a love of a good telephoto camera, and the Pixel, from my perspective, has been like the US default, and then the Oppo, Xiaomi's have been the rest of world default. And to have an iPhone that doesn't have a terrible telephoto experience is, I think, a huge win.
This is a major win, 100%. And
because I hate the telephoto right now on the 16 Pro Max.
It's terrible.
It's almost unusable in some situations.
I agree 100%. It's finally time that Apple, this is what I mean, Apple finally made a phone that is like an Ultra Pro, whatever. It's really solid. And eSIM, how you feel as a Canadian now that you can't get a physical SIM?
I'm scared, I will be honest, because I don't trust the Canadian carriers to make the experience smooth enough or cheap enough to allow people like us to transfer our eSIMs as often as we transfer physical SIMs. So I'm in this weird situation where tomorrow I'm getting my 17 Pro Max. I do have one on order, which I'm going to go pick up at the Apple Store on Friday. So even like, let's just say this weird situation where I get my demo device tomorrow. I want to put my primary SIM on there. I easily transfer my physical SIM to an eSIM on the iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Apple will make that super seamless, 100%.
It will. But then I decide, okay, I want to put it back in the Pixel 10 Pro. What's going to happen? Is Bell Canada going to charge me $10 and make me go to some online portal? Probably, because it's not going to be simple. And I guarantee you that the rate in which I usually switch SIM cards is going to decline because I'm going to be nervous about having to go through this rigmarole every time.
So have you considered doing another thing? Have you considered converting your physical SIM to an eSIM on your Pixel, then transferring the eSIM to your iPhone?
Well, wouldn't that, if I want to go back to the Pixel afterwards?
But then it's an eSIM, so you can transfer eSIMs easier than try to convert back to physical SIM.
No, that's what I mean. Like, I'm happy to do eSIM to eSIM, but I don't trust Bell
you're not even.
Easy.
I thought you meant going eSIM back to physical SIM. You're talking about going eSIM back to eSIM. Okay,
I've already made my bed. Like, I'm committed to staying on the eSIM now, but I'm worried because Canada's carriers have no experience with this.
So
it's
it'll
going to
be
be a
interesting
problem.
because when my review units arrive, I don't know how many I'm getting. I don't know which ones I'm getting, but I have all three US Pixels with me today here in Canada that have AT&T and Verizon SIMs on them. Each have two eSIMs that I've requested to send me for testing, and I'm getting some from T-Mobile as well. So I'm gonna have three eSIMs on each Pixel, and I'm gonna try to transfer these to the iPhone, and I'm gonna try to transfer them back to Android. Now it's US carriers, so it'll be interesting to see how it works because that is actually something we need to write about. Somebody needs to test this out because transferring from Samsung phones to the Pixels was easy. The AT&T SIMs transferred over like that, no problem. But that was Android to Android, Android 16 to Android 16, right? How is it going to be? And I didn't try Verizon. Verizon looked me up directly on the iMaze, right? For the Pixels. So I don't know. I haven't tried transferring the Verizon SIMs yet. But for AT&T, I can say this: if you're on AT&T, it seems that you can on Android transfer seamlessly. So I don't know. Let's find out, right?
It'll be interesting.
It's
It'll be
definitely
interesting.
friction. It's definitely anti-consumer. I don't like it.
It doesn't.
Pro
So
carrier.
back in the day, right, when eSIMs were novel and we thought that it would allow us to just put our SIM card on any device anytime we wanted, and that the carriers would have to get out of our way. I was so naive in thinking that this would be a benefit to consumers. And it quickly became apparent that the only benefit for eSIM is when you're traveling, right? And then you want to buy a new
Yeah, and
eSIM.
that's why
And
every phone should be dual SIM, eSIM, and physical SIM because we can keep our main SIM physical and then have an eSIM for travel because I think eSIM for travel is awesome. I've used
but
it.
if Apple's saying, and this is something that I think a lot of companies are going to say when they move to eSIM only, that they're giving you an extra 6% battery capacity by removing the physical SIM.
But the Chinese will say, screw that. We have silicon carbon. We don't need that space. We can still give you a SIM card.
So there you go. Apple's like the rabbits out of the hat, the cat's out of the bag, whatever you want to call it. They're not putting a physical SIM back in these SKUs ever, right?
Never.
This is the
No,
end of the
Apple,
physical
for them,
SIM.
it's the end. And then everybody else is going to follow except for China because China right now, did you hear what happened? They did not put the iPhone Air on sale at pre-order like the rest of the world because the carrier is still not ready for eSIM.
Yeah, and
In China,
I mean,
most phones sold for China market, not Chinese phones abroad, but China market phones do not have eSIM support at all. They have dual physical SIMs only. This is totally throwing a wrench into like China Unicom and China Mobile and all these other government owned carriers that just don't really know how to deal with eSIMs right now, and they're going like, "What are you doing, Apple?"
I'm surprised though. Like China's usually far ahead of North America and Europe when it comes to adopting this kind of technology. So they're
I think
clearly not seeing it as an
they
advantage.
believe in the GSM standard somehow, which decouples the terminal from the service by having a physical SIM card. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how it should be. I know
I
it
mean,
seems antiquated
it
these
is
days
how it
because
should be.
everything is software. We don't have physical media anymore. So why would we have a physical SIM? But come on. Anyway, I could rant about this forever. News items of the week. Some are really good here. Xiaomi is renaming their phones 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max instead of 17 Pro and 17 Ultra.
And they're
wait,
skipping
instead of
and they're
16,
skipping 16.
yeah, thank you, and skipping 16, which is the crazy part because the last flagships were 15. I think this is absolutely and utterly ridiculous.
I think it reaffirms that every company is just unabashedly copying Apple in every way, including Samsung, right? We had a few years where companies were purposefully changing and sort of bucking the trend in terms of design. And now we just have every company from hardware to software acquiescing to the idea that Apple is a market leader and there's no downside to following them. So I think it's just working, right? Even Samsung doing its thing, slowly but surely making its products look more and more like iPhones. I just think that helped the Chinese manufacturers justify a trend that was already in progress.
I think Xiaomi's always been like that. I mean, from day one, the original Xiaomi phone, like they were really, going after Apple, and they always have to a great extent. But I feel that you're right. Like we're seeing a lot more of that. Even the upcoming Oppo and OnePlus phones are copycats of the design of the previous iPhone Pro, the 16 Pro and Pro Max, in terms of like they're going back to a square camera pod with 3 lenses in the top left corner of the rear. Um, and
Right.
and and
they're
Xiaomi is
behind by a
going to
year.
the plateau or mesa or bump or pod that Apple has on the 17 Pro and Pro Max, but they're
Yeah.
adding a display because they're being Chinese and awesome. I kind of love the display because I had the Xiaomi 11 Ultra, which at the time was still called Mi 11 Ultra, that had a display next to the rear cameras. It was like a postage stamp smartwatch size display that let you do selfies and stuff. And I'm going back to that, but now it's fully integrated. It looks like they're doing the thing that Razer's doing, where the camera bumps are going through the display on the rear of the phone in a little plateau that takes up 1/3. Now, to be fair to Xiaomi, the Poco phones have always had the camera pod that was a third of the top of the phone, like what we see on the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. They've always had camera pods like that, not necessarily physically bumps, but like outlined in some different color or something. And so we could say that Xiaomi is continuing in that kind of design language and not copying. But the fact that they're renaming what should have been the 16, the 17, and then naming it 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max is silly and funny, and so Xiaomi. And as I just mentioned, the OnePlus 15, I'm surprised they're not calling it the OnePlus 16 Pro or 16 Pro Max, because it looks like an iPhone 16 and 16 Pro Max from last year. There were some leaked renders, not renders, but photos. And so disappointing after them finally finding their own design language, that round Oppo OnePlus thing that I think is best characterized by the OnePlus Open, right? It's like that was a solid design language. And last year's Oppo, the Find X8, X8 Pro, X8 Ultra, all had that nice circular camera bump that I thought looked really cool. And now apparently the Find X9 Pro is going to go, well, the whole 9 series is going to go to square in the corner iPhone-like design. I don't know. It's all very disappointing to me. I'm actually surprised that OnePlus is not calling their next phone the OnePlus 17.
I'm hoping that
Why not?
this is them sort of purposefully misleading us.
It could be,
I'm-
but I honestly, it's not the first time I've seen this. This looks like some sort of promo photo or marketing photo, but we've seen leaks of real phones handled by real people that look like that. So it's not.
That's
I think it's happening.
truly disappointing.
I mean, they're skipping. To be clear, they're skipping 14 to going to 15. But I think they should go to either 16 or 17 because it looks like an iPhone 16 Pro, and because Xiaomi's doing 17. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a lot of Chinese companies switching their names over because Xiaomi did it now. And then, or 26, like, the whole Apple OS ecosystem going to 26. Like, wouldn't be surprised if Samsung, I don't know, does something silly next year with naming and with SIMs.
It just feels like another slab. OnePlus has, I agree with you, right? OnePlus has done a really good job of late making itself stand out. And this just feels like Oppo is finally getting its hooks into the OnePlus design team.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
strangely,
really
they're not sticking with that nice round camera pod that they had, which was very Oppo. I mean, I felt honestly the OnePlus last year, was awesome. Like it was very much an Oppo phone, and that's fine by me. Like it was the Oppo phone we could get in the US. Great. But now they're changing the industrial design to look more like Apple, and it's just weird. So anyway,
well.
Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is going to be the name. Talking about weird names. And by the way, those two phones, the Xiaomi 17, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, and OnePlus 15 are going to have that chip in them. And that's happening next week, folks, in Hawaii. I'll be there. So the naming makes kind of sense because they went from 8 Gen 3 to 8 Elite, but it was really supposed to be 8 Gen 4 or 8 Elite Gen 4 if you want. So they're combining the two by making it 8 Elite Gen 5. And if you look at all the other chip, the 8S Gen 4, the 7S Gen 4, the 7 Gen 4, they have Gen 4, and so they're going to go Gen 5, all of them next year. Why they didn't figure out that's what they were doing last year, I don't know. It's weird to me.
I think this is just par for the course for Qualcomm, and the company has been hilariously bad with names forever.
Yeah.
So this just makes sense. If you think about it in like the Qualcomm canon, this actually is exactly what they would have been doing the whole time. It also, there's an argument to be made that they skipped 4 because China is such a big market.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Yeah.
But again, like they probably had this decision of should it be the 8 Gen Elite or 8 Elite Gen 2, or let's like find some continuum with our previous legacy. And honestly, who actually knows the name of the Qualcomm chip in their device?
Nobody knows.
6
We do.
S Gen 3, right? Like, what does that
mean?
mean?
I only keep track of the 8s. The 7s, I don't even know half the time. The 6, never mind. So, and this is us working in the biz. So yeah, you're right. I don't know. I think that this is definitely the name. This is the naming show, the weird naming show. Last thing I want to really mention, we talked about the Oppo Find X9 Pro briefly there. That's going to be coming with a MediaTek Dimensity 9500. We already know that leaked. And that should be coming out, that chip should be coming out around the same time as Qualcomm's chip next week at some point, I think. Anyway, the point I'm making is that there is supposed to be a camera kit for that, which is interesting because you'd think they would reserve that for the Ultra. And at the same time, we're seeing some photo samples. They've actually published officially some photo samples from the Find X9 Pro. And just to remind you, what's happening here is they're going back from 4 50 megapixel lenses in the back to 3 lenses in the back, but instead it's 250, so the ultra wide in the main, and then they're doing the telephoto at 200. I think 3x. So they're going to basically crop to 6x with the 200 instead of having 2 physical 50 megapixel lenses at 3x and 6x like they did last year. So it's a really interesting setup. Does that save them money? I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I think it might, right? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think every Oppo update is important. I have no doubt that regardless of the technical specs, like this will be a superlative.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be amazing.
Like every time I get a new Oppo flagship, the Pro or the Ultra, or a Xiaomi Pro or Ultra, I'm blown away. I've never used the Vivos, but I think you've probably seen the.
It's been a while since I've had Next series, but yeah, they've been impressive too.
Right, like there are 3 companies pushing the industry forward, and everybody else is not really catching up, just like doing the bare minimum. And I really like the X8 Pro, but I do think it was a regression in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
Right? They saved the best for the Ultra that never hit the rest of the world, and they made a lot of sacrifices in the name of thin and light design. When I look at something like the Xiaomi 13 Pro from a couple of years ago, I found that to be just the best possible balance of specs and usability. I loved that phone. In fact, I liked it more than the 13 Ultra, which had technically a better camera.
Right. Well, it's also a much smaller phone. Like my favorite actually is the 15 last year, the regular 15. So small, like, 6.5 inch to 6.3 inch, so super thin bezel, basically the same size as an iPhone 16, iPhone 17, iPhone 15. But packed, with tech and awesomeness, silicon carbon battery, the whole thing. So I don't know. I think the Xiaomi's are going to be good. I think the Oppo's going to be good. I'm sure the OnePlus will be fine. It's just interesting to see how things are evolving, and yeah, I think all three of these phones will have silicon carbon batteries. So, Oppo, Xiaomi, and OnePlus here. And, we're going to see 7,000 plus on the Oppo and the OnePlus for sure. And I think the Xiaomi might be close behind. So at least on the pros, I think the base Xiaomi 17 might just be like 65 or only 65 or 6,800 milliamp hours. Ooh, no. Anyway, we should wrap up.
Spoiled for choice.
Yeah, Daniel, do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your various social media handles, and what you do, and where they can find you on the, on various publications, if at all?
I'm usually on the Android Police podcast. I'll say that. I don't write much anymore, though I am reviewing a bunch of products for How To Geeks, so you might be able to find me there in the next little bit.
Your name will appear. See, I thought
it will a little bit, yeah, but I'm mostly behind the scenes. But I do host the Android Police podcast with my colleague Stephen Radosha. We're back after a brief hiatus when my previous co-host Will Saddleberg left to go to 9 to 5 Google. So I would very much appreciate, after you listen to this episode and every other episode of the Mobile Tech Podcast, if you want to go over there. So that's where people can find me these days.
So yeah, folks, check out these articles that are coming and the podcast, of course, after mine. But, find us on social to discuss this podcast with us. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character, just drop the vowels on pretty much every platform. TNKGRL, basically. Tankerl69, for some reason, that's my year of birth. Let's not come up with some weird ideas here on TikTok. So, I'm doing TikTok a little more lately. I'm not actually looking at the TikTok videos, but I'm actually like posting like little samples of the podcast to kind of entice you all. So check out my TikTok. But I'm mostly on Blue Sky, on Insta, on Threads. I'm obviously still on Twitter, for better or for worse. But, that's the platforms you'll find me on. And so, chat with us on social. And then the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com on all the major platforms. So please subscribe if it's your first time here. Daniel took you here because you're like, oh, Daniel, on another podcast. Please subscribe. And then YouTube channel is youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. And you know how YouTube works. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, all that good stuff. There's some excerpts of the podcast there. Like there's nothing earbuds review will be condensed into a small little video. That kind of stuff, some hands-on, some reviews, some, first impressions. And then if you want to support me, patreon.com/Tankerl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. You can get a video version of the podcast in advance every week for $5 a month. So you get it a day in advance every week for $5 a month. And, we went overtime this week. So you will be getting some extra content because I'm trying to keep the podcast a little shorter than what we're doing right now. So I'll be cutting out some stuff and putting it exclusively for Patreons. That's what I do most weeks. So consider supporting me with Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And another way to support me is through our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Daniel, thanks so much for being my guest again. I appreciate it. Nerding out about iPhones and Apple products is always quite fun.
It's such a pleasure to be on here every time. So thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much again. And folks, stay tuned. We'll have another podcast next week, hopefully with some iPhone reviews. Until then, cheers, everybody.